Hello, this will be my first narrated video. This video will be to show my 7.5-inch model railroad that I've been building almost entirely from scratch. We're going to do a walking tour today of it. We're starting right now at my cabin, which lines up with the railroad. So this is the view from the deck that I have, and we're going to follow the track along there into the roundhouse. Here are some ties that I've been making for the expansion that we will see later. So along this spur line into the turntable, through those doors, we have all of my engines. This is the engine storage area. This is my pedal ride-on car, though adults have to use their hands because it's too long. We have the steam engine there, and its riding car in the front. The green engine only goes forward and has a belt slip drive. This engine here was built to run off of 120 volts AC off of a generator and is very powerful. It travels very nicely as well. My big gas hydraulic engine, a work car. This is my tractor car, but it can be used to haul rock with a frame that I add on, and other attachments go on the top. And this is my first engine that I ever built, which is it's got 2 electric wheelchair motors and it runs on 12 volts. The turntable connects to all 4 of the tracks going into the engine house, and 3 of the tracks going into my car storage room. I use Barbies because they're about the right size for people. These are my real passenger cars that people sit on when they go on the railroad. And get you a view of the shed that the cars are in. And then I have this small track here for storage of cars and engines while I'm setting up trains. So then we follow the spur line back to the main line, where we have a switch that's got a single bar that flips back and forth. This switch works really well and is much easier to construct than the standard switches that most people use and you'll see on most railroads. So as we go through the switch, we're now on the main line. This is the first curve in the turn. I usually operate in this direction, and you can see I have a signal here, an old one as well as a new modern one. The new modern one works based on cutting the beam. So you can see that the beam has now been cut. You got a red signal, and in 45 seconds that'll go to green. Eventually I will attach a switch here for the short loop back. You can see the switch is sitting there on top of the track. It just has not been put in. The track will have to be realigned before that happens. Continuing on, we have a train station here. You can wait for the train. And this is the direction of travel, so we'll continue along. As we come around this curve, this is the area where I leave the grass tall because it looks really good with the scale. And then we have 2 spur lines over here with an old train body that I used to use as an engine, and the usual junk on a railroad, and that would be a speeder storage. And you can see here is more of a normal switch that you might see on a regular railroad. This one's not perfect. It has a few problems with some of my equipment, so I've put it here. This spur line is not attached to the main line yet. switches are very difficult to make. So then we go into the double rail section of my dog bone track. As we come along here, you'll see that we don't go through the tunnel bridge. We will turn and go down one of our steepest hills. This steep hill will be removed in the future. You can see the track bed beside it that I'll be using in the future. This will keep it much more level. Coming down this hill can be quite fast if you have no brakes. We come around this corner, and this is where the old track and the new track are the closest that they'll be. We also have this little switching box that's made out of an old barbecue stand. I think it looks nice along the railroad. This is where we're going to then travel along the path of the new track, and we'll come back to the current live track in a bit. This area has just been finished today, where I've laid some new track, but I don't have it ballasted yet. These are all connected. You'll note that my rails are made out of flat bar. It's 1 inch by 1/4 inch into dadoed groove ties. This is a mix of old Trex decking material and pressure treated lumber on the new area. You can see where I make joins. I just make a flat plate that holds it into place. So this will be the new track that's much more level to the beginning of the railroad. And we come up to my largest bridge. The bridge is built all out of 2x2s and some 4x4s. And the rail here is actually just angle. That way I can screw it down to the railroad. This bridge is 24 feet long. Then we come out on the other side of that bridge. This area is also built up, one of our lowest areas on the railroad. I'm still finishing this, but this area is relatively done at this point. And this section I had worked on again today. So you're coming up to the front of my property and the end of the railroad when the expansion will be put in. There's a new signal post put in there. This is the end of the new railroad line so far. It will continue going around this corner. This is where the ground is now level with the front, with the beginning of the railroad. This is where I store my new ballast, which is quite close to the track so that I can load ballast onto a car once the rails are here. As we come around this far corner, we are now going to have to build it up again. So you'll see that this area starts to be built up again to make it more level with the front. And we get a really nice view of the bridge over there from this side. I expect to complete this part of the track next year, and that would be 2024. As we come back to the current main line, you'll see that we have a wooden train that used to act as a fence to just protect the ground level track from driving on. So this will eventually reconnect to the main line. We're going to walk back to where we left off on the current main line. Just giving you a view of the wooden train built out of pressure treated fence boards. So this is where we left off with the main line, so we'll keep going this way. You can see the wooden train as you go around the curve. This is the lowest section of the railroad, and this is another very steep uphill. And this is a non-electric signal only coming up here. As we come around this corner, you can see that I've built several buildings out of just some leftover plywood and other wood, which I'll eventually turn into like industry buildings along the railroad. And now we're going to be going through that tunnel. This tunnel has a different way to signal. It uses just a motion detector. There's the new rail for the new railroad, and I have a few decorative items in the tunnel along the way. As we exit the tunnel, you'll see that we have a power line. This is what supplies the 12 volts power to the tunnel and signals, and several more industry related buildings. These are not complete, they're really rough at this point. When we come up to our basic signal, which is always warning to slow down, flashing yellow means the next block track will be occupied. So slow down, you might get a red. And we have another signal box built out of the old barbecue, which has electrical warning on it. Looks like a real railroad signal box. And we are back to the siding here on the dog bone track. As we continue, you can see there's still the power lines running along here. And we are now separating from the outbound track. Ahead, you will see we have another one of those, I think they're called kick switches. This switch is the easier to build ones. You cannot run through them backwards, but these switches work quite well. And I have some power running under the track there. And then if you come through this switch going this way, and it's aligned for this track, this leads right back past that bench and train station to where the switch will be installed for the short loop. At this point, we're now coming back to the cabin. We're on the back side of the cabin. I don't have any water services, so I use rainwater for all of my watering. And you can see a cutout of a bear in this area. As we come along here, this is the end of the power lines, and we're coming to the southern part of the property, the other end of the property. We have a small metal bridge here with a small gap of about 3 feet where there's some dinosaurs. This is meant to be the Drumheller Valley. We have another bench for train watching there, and you can see the back side of the cabin. And I have a pond. The pond is for more water storage. As we come along this track, you'll see we have a small village made out of a whole bunch of pieces of plywood that are been left around and weathered. The village has some toys in it and some animals and people in the buildings, sidewalks, fencing, power running to each building with a light inside. Looks really neat at night. You can see that in one of my other videos. And as we come up here, this is another speeder storage workshop type building with the tracks coming straight out to the main line. I didn't go all the way to prevent derailment issues. We also have a grain elevator and a teepee. And this brings us back to where we started. There is a water tower in there, which eventually I can use to actually fill up the steam engine. I hope you enjoyed my tour of the railroad, and please check back for more videos of the railroad. Bye.